Hello, this is Don,
And this is Gina with Focused Healthy Family.
and this week we're sharing with you some of the best of 2023 from the Focused Healthy Family podcast.
Each day this week, we'll rebroadcast one of our favorite episodes over this past year. So be sure to tune in every day.
And also join us in 2024.
So have a happy holidays, and we'll see you in the new year. Don's from St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm from Pennsylvania. And we raise our family here in Charlotte, North Carolina. So over the years with holidays, we would take long trips. We would drive there. And one particular trip, I want to say our oldest was about 8. So our second child was 4. We just had 2 at the time. And we had taken a long trip out to St. Louis. And so because we traveled a lot, our kids had things in the back pockets of the minivan and things that they kept. And our son was notorious for keeping papers and just having different things. And they collect over the years. And the pocket in the door had a bunch of papers. And behind the seat, there was a pocket and all this stuff. I believe it was April 1st. And he fell asleep coming home. So I got this idea. When we got home, he woke up and I told him while he was asleep, we got pulled over by the police for an excess paper violation. Harrison was very gullible at that age. I said, we have to clean up this car. They're going to come back and check, and we're going to get a ticket if we don't. So he dove right in, clearing up those papers. And I had taken a piece of paper and wrote April Fools and stuck it like in the back of the papers. If memory serves me right, he's going through and cleaning it up. And I think I had to eventually tell him or pull
I was
out
going to say, he probably got the paper without even paying
the
attention to it.
paper. And it's like the best April Fool's prank that I've ever played on anyone. I still tease him about it. He's 25 now. This is Gina.
Oh, and this is Don with Focus Healthy Family. And today is podcast number 78. And we're we're really having a conversation with Gina and I about moving emotions and what we're going through with this move. And we're in the crux of it right now.
As
And
well as the moving emotions. It's
yes,
the other
yes,
meaning of it.
yes. And we're realizing it's getting real.
Before we get into that, we'll pause for a word from our sponsor.
Hey guys, it's Don here from Focus Healthy Family. And instead of our sponsor today, I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about the workshop we're doing based on this book. And we talk a lot about the book. We've talked about it in our podcast, How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk by Adele Faber and Elaine Majlis. And what we were so impressed with this that we decided to do the training the training for it and begin doing workshops on it. We've been doing them now over the last couple of years and have just been amazed by the changes that we have seen happen to parents who are dealing with kids and watching it changing how they communicate with their child, but also how it changes behavior and it changes anxiety. It brings anxiety down in the house. And like I said, I've had an added bonus to it is I use the same material, the same stuff that's in here for my adult world with my profession, because the concepts in this book, they give you real practical steps you can take to change how you communicate and make a difference between having a 15-minute conversation or a 1-hour battle. They tell you in here how to do that in many different ways. And so we do workshops. Uh, it's a 6-week workshop. It's a 2-hour a day workshop. But what we did is we split it into 2 days, 1 hour each day. We do it at noon Eastern time. And we have had people all over the world that have come onto the class, and really neat stuff. And I'm going to play for you uh, one of the parents' testimonies on what they thought of the class. So listen and see what they said. So, starting January 9th, 2024, we're doing our next series of 6 week classes, and they're at noon on Tuesdays and Thursdays, each week for 6 weeks. And you're going to gain a lot of different skills that are very important. Plus, you'll have the opportunity to have other parents and listen to how they deal with things and what's going on for them, and literally working through examples, role playing, um, learning some good content to the book, and just having a good time too at the same time. We have a lot of fun while we do them. I hope that you can join us for this workshop. Again, it's all virtual via Zoom, and it's 6 weeks starting January 9th. You can find out more information by going to focusedhealthyfamily.com/workshops, where you're going to find out all about this wonderful workshop on how to talk so kids will listen and listen so kids will talk. Hope you join us again. focusedhealthyfamily.com/workshops. Thanks. And we're back.
And stuff's getting real.
Yeah, there's another way to put that, but we thought we'd keep it clean.
We did another podcast on clutter as Don and I were figuring out what we're discussing. Over the next couple weeks, we're having these conversations because we are in the middle of it. Our house is under contract for someone to move in, and we have a house under contract
For us to move
to
in.
purchase, and things are moving along. And we finally hit that stage where it's like, oh, wow, this is really happening. This was something we started to pursue several months ago just to see what our opportunities were to get out of some debt. And before we knew it,
Boom, we're
we're
there.
rolling forward. We call this our 5-year house, and it's been 22 and a half years. And it's served us well. We have taken money out of it and refinanced. And it's something we've wanted for a while. But in the back of my mind, it's always been like, it's not really going to happen. You wanted to start packing boxes up a month ago. And I was like, let's not pack things we use, because I don't want to have to unpack them and have that emotion of this didn't work out. Excuse me. And as I say that, there's still a little bit of a, it's not
Hesitation.
final.
Don't want to jinx
Our
it.
realtor, we asked the realtor if he could jump up and down. He goes, do not jump up and down until the closing, because it's not final till the closing is complete. Yet
Everything's moving in that direction really
place.
well. I mean, on both sides, the house that the people that are buying this house have got all their stuff together from what they're saying as far as financial and all that, and ours looks pretty clean right now. We've got two people who are really working for us, a realtor and the financial
OfferPad. They've been great.
They have been.
They
Eddie
have a mortgage
and
guy, they
Scott
have the
there.
realtor guy, they've got the whole kit and caboodle.
So if you're in Charlotte and you want a good realtor,
they're in more than Charlotte. The corporate office.
well, yeah, that's true.
Is in
But I mean,
Arizona.
I'm talking about Scott in particular. Was just he went to bat for us to get the house, because as I think we talked about before, we went through two houses where
we put offers on two different
got
houses.
rejected
The
on.
third time is the charm.
When I was talking to Dr. Smith, which is the doctor I work with, and his son is trying to buy a house, and he's been rejected. He's had 6 offers so far that he got beat out on.
Right.
And he's getting a little bit disheartened to buy it.
Because there's so many people, what a realtor said, there's the least amount of houses for the number of people wanting to buy right now.
Yeah.
So things like we sold our house in 10 days, and I'm like, okay, we got to have somewhere to live.
Yeah.
And so the crunch our realtor was great. Usually they want to close in 30 days, and he asked for 45. And I'm so grateful, because now we're down to 30 days and 22 years of living in this house, and all the different challenges that we've been through that have kept us from keeping up with things, contributing to clutter and
maintenance of the house.
That now that we're going through it, it's like, wow.
Well, and we've done stuff to the house. We've invested in this house, but it's in ways that are hard to see, because it's like septic and well that that people don't think about it. So we really had to kind of promote that for ourselves.
And more than that, when we moved in, we chose to rent the house we were living in, and using that rental income to help us get a bigger house. And so we had a couple weeks, we didn't have to be out of the house at the same time. We came over here. This house was 30 something years old. The basement hadn't been painted since it was built. we did painting to it, then we pulled carpets up. And then over the years, we redid the kitchen. We took out paneling, put wallboard in. We totally redid one bathroom. We have done a lot to it over the years, but now it's a 54-year-old house and it still needs
stuff,
more
yes.
things done. We've had some water leaks and there's some old issues that the new owners are going to address. We have wood windows and some of them are painted shut. We have done a lot to it, yet there's more that needs
Yeah.
to be done. And like you said, yeah, we have invested in some big money and a brand new deep well and septic system and things that really have to be done to keep it working and running. So it is someone can move right in here, yet there is some
work to be done.
remediation. And yet, because we're in such a great area, we're able to get a pretty penny for it that we can.
A pretty penny.
A pretty penny. Sometimes these random expressions. Working in geriatrics for 30 years, I don't know where these expressions come from. And the house we're buying is older. It's really funny. This house was built in 69, and that was the year I was born. The house we are buying was built in
1958, which is when I was born. So it's interesting going back in time, I guess, if you want to say it that way.
And yet this house has been remodeled. And so it's fresh paint and there's a lot that's been done. And yet, because they did a remodel on it, there are no blinds or curtains or curtain rods. We have to buy a refrigerator. There's a lot of little things.
Oh, I didn't think about the blind. I didn't think about
that we need to do. And there's a lot of moving pieces. And just to step back a minute, I've dealt with depression over the years, and it's bipolar 2, where I go from depression to what we call hypomania. So not full-on mania where you're buying like crazy and just sort of that typical picture of what mania might look like. But hypomania, you're really high functioning. You get a lot done. You can survive on less sleep. And so you're really productive. And so it feels really good. Unfortunately, you stay in that state too long, and then I start coming down.
Kind of almost like a crash in a way.
And then the depression can be worse. And yet the media portrays depression as someone curled up in their bed, not able to get out of bed, not able to do anything. It took me years to realize I was really dealing with depression because I still got up. I pushed myself to go to work. Yes.
Basic functions.
I got sick often, but I got some basic things done. I got the kids fed. Sometimes it was just a sandwich or whatever. I did the basic cleanup. And over the years, the more different things we've happened, things like cleaning the bathrooms regularly and some other things have slowly gone the wayside. And just collecting of things, we held on to toys and clothes because our kids are so spread out in age. And I want to hold on to classic toys because someday there'll be younger kids in my life in some form. And I want to hang on to these things. And when you have the space, you hang on to it. Well, we're downsizing by 600 feet.
Aren't we jumping right to great grandchildren?
Yeah, I had in all the stuff we have going on and many things running through my brain. I said the silliest statement that, well, maybe our kids won't have children. I won't have grandchildren, but maybe I could have great grandchildren. And I was like, Gina. It
takes another step in there somewhere.
But so life is really busy. And so I am now realizing the extent of my depression and how it has affected the long range. Pulling out toys that I've had stored away that are just caked in dust. Like I took them outside to rinse them, and it's just then there's just clumps of dust. And realizing, because we haven't been able to kind of do that clean out once a year or the maintaining, that I see how I was kind of barely functioning. And there are times when I was doing better and we did some projects around the house, and yet slowly things accumulate. And of course, there were life challenges in there. You had a massive heart attack in 2011. I had to go in survival mode. I had a car accident a year later. Our daughter's severe OCD flare up, getting her through that. Then our younger daughter's OCD, and you're having the open heart surgery. There have been a number of different things that have affected the path. And so I feel good in that, even though there's dust everywhere and clutter everywhere to some extent, I've seen worse. I've worked in home health care.
Yeah. We're not necessarily hoarders as such.
It's fun to watch that show because I'm like, oh, ours isn't that bad.
Well, yeah.
I'm losing my train of thought
That's
though.
all right. Let the train come back. Woo, woo.
That doesn't
All
help.
aboard.
That doesn't help
She
me.
get remember Harrison's little
That doesn't
toot.
remember
Sorry.
me. Oh my
That doesn't
goodness.
remember me. Well, let me.
No, we
So,
can work with it.
sorry. We'll give her. Dun, 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 dun.
You've really made it more
Sorry.
difficult and continue to make it more difficult for me to focus. So all these things have happened, and yet I value that the time that I did have, I put into the kids.
Yeah.
I put into spending time with them, facilitating their education, working to bring in the income to afford our lifestyle. And so I have a sense of peace about that, that we haven't had the big fancy house or cars, or our house has been very lived in
Yeah.
over the years. And yet we've put the time and energy into our kids.
Well, that's the idea of success.
How do you define it?
I went for a long time struggling with, yeah, and still do a little bit with the idea of success. And as I think about it, when I decided to go on my own business and quit I was with Kraft and with big corporation kind of thing. I just my we talked about the goals were for I wanted to be home with the kids.
Well, we both decided we didn't
Yeah.
want to just put our kids in daycare, that for us, we wanted to juggle parenting and we wanted to be with them.
And I was traveling quite a bit even then, and so I wanted to make sure that I was the dad that they knew, that I wasn't this dad that was just there on weekends or something like that.
Yeah, because you would travel like 3 weeks out of a month.
Yeah, and so we set that kind of as kind of a goal in a way. Yet I think in my mind it was a financial goal that I was shooting for, and so it was a real conflict in my head, I think, in the fact of really being able to say that I was successful as a person, as a business, as a father. All of that was really hard to actually come to a understanding that I was a good dad and I was a good husband, father, whatever.
So you had the value of being with your kids, and yet you also had this message that in order to be successful, you needed to bring in the income.
Yes.
Because I worked full time and you were building the business, and the goal was that I could cut back to part-time hours and that your income would step up.
And it didn't do that, as we,
Initially, it took a long time. It
yeah.
did eventually.
Well, yeah, because I sold the business and all. It was just,
So that conflict in your
but
mind
it was,
of,
and I still kind of, because and I think that's what's blocked me from making that business work, is that the mental, conflict, the mental back and forth kind of in my mind about
can I
it.
ask a question?
Sure.
Do you have that belief that you can't have it all? You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't be a good dad and grow a successful business. Do you think that's
I think there's something in there about that. Or you can't do the type of business that, being that I'm coaching and we're working with parents, that you can't make money, you shouldn't make money doing that because
helping people?
you're helping people, so those are all things I think that play in my mind, and I think they cause me a different type of depression because it stops me from functioning sometimes. Many times I come down into the office and sat down and just stared at the computer like, okay, I got 16 different things that I should be doing. I'm shooting on myself about it. So,
and so, there's clinical depression, and then there's going through kind of depression mood or feeling or emotions. And there's a difference, but there's also varying degrees of depression, and it looks different for different people. Like I said, for years, I'm like, oh, I'm not, depressed. I'm still able to do this. I'm still able to do this. There's people who have it much worse than me.
yeah, that comparative.
And it took a friend kind of shaking me up to realize, I was in a really positive, hypomanic, but really functional place for a while. And then I came back down. It's like, oh my, I had to be on the other side to see where I was at, because it had been more gradual before that point and less extreme, I guess.
Well, well, the other thing that played on me with the house I was never really proud of this house.
Hmm.
I I wanted to invite certain friends over or something, but I always just was embarrassed by it because it didn't look like I thought a successful or whatever kind of person would have.
We bought this house with the intention of growing rental property.
Hmm.
We had met some people that had done this. So this was, we bought this house in 2001 before 9/11.
Yeah.
And so our intention was this was a step up and we'd grow income from our other rental property so that maybe possibly turn this into a rental property and we'd be able to move again to get what we really wanted. We
Hmm.
came here and we're like, okay, this is good. It's got space. It's not everything we want. It's not, and yet it was a step. And then we
Well,
had a mortgage company handling the other house for the renting. They didn't tell us that after the year contract was up, they didn't make the people sign another contract.
and
And so
so
the people suddenly moved out. And then we found ourselves in a place of, do we try to get another renter or do we sell this house? And at the time, it was cheaper for people to, so that would have been 2002, cheaper for people to buy than to rent. And so the rental market wasn't what it had been. We weren't able to raise the rent. And so we decided to sell, but we had, I want to say 8 months of paying 2 mortgage payments and not having income brought in.
So
And
that,
then we couldn't even, like, I was thinking the other day, I was like, man, if we could have held on to it longer and sold it recently.
well, yeah, but then, but you got to remember, like, was it 2007, 2008? There was a bubble
Yeah.
crash
Oh, I
with
meant
the housing market
we'd
and
had
all
to
that.
hold
So
on to it till the past
it would
couple of
have,
years.
it would have bankrupted us, I think, if we would have held on to it and through that kind of period. But
So yeah, so we both had this idea that this was temporary. And then it was like, okay, well, we're happy. For years we had our mortgage payment was less than $1,000. And yet we have almost a 2,000 square foot house. We have the 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. The
plus an
base,
extra room.
the basement has an office. It's separate, a separate laundry room. And then, our oldest moved out and then our middle child moved out. And it's like, oh yeah, this house does have a lot of room in it. And as we're looking at other
I'm starting to
houses,
appreciate it more than,
yeah, we'd go look and I get frustrated and we'd pull in our driveway and be like, let's just live here. This is a nice place.
Well, yeah, I think I always think about what the possibilities with
Oh,
this
yeah.
house, you know.
And we did things to it. We
Yeah.
did remodel the bathroom and there's things we have done to it. And so buying this new house, it comes with some possibilities. The washer dryer hookups in the garage. So there's not like a laundry room, which our youngest does her own laundry and she's like, oh, I got to go in the garage to do laundry. Yet I see the possibility of turning at least half of it to a living space, which would then give us the more space. And so what's going on? We're moving with emotions and we're moving the emotions as we're doing these processes, right? That's what EFT does. It
Yeah.
helps you move your emotions. And so for me, this experience has been a lot of kind of eye-opening realizations. I keep calling it my holy shoot moments.
Either Glean.
It just has so much more power when you say it the other way. And just how real this is and how we've wanted this. And it's like, I found in one of my notebooks several months back, you and I sat down and looked at what we needed to do to grow the business and financial and to get out of debt. And we kind of spelled through things. And I was like, oh my, I forgot we did that. I'm like, that's what we're doing. We're going to,
We created this.
when we sell the house, we are clearing out credit card debt completely and even our car loan. So we will only have a mortgage payment. And I'm like, look what we manifested. Like, just having that conversation and talking about it for so long, we felt like we were talking but getting nowhere.
Mhm.
And so I held on for a while, just worried, is this really going to happen? The first offer pad said, we'll just buy your house as is. We take over and clean it up so you don't have to worry about showings. Well, then they're like, no, there's too much work. So we'll sell it as is for you, but you have to have showings and all this. So it's like, okay, is this really going to happen? And we got an offer from an investor who offered way lower than what we wanted. And you're like, should we take that? And it
Yeah.
only been on the market a couple days. And we had other people that we thought were interested and they really weren't. And then we got that offer but it was still like, is this really going to go through? They do the inspections, all the different processes. There's so much involved in this.
Well, what's neat is to hearing, from our realtor, what this couple that wants to buy it's they're looking at this house. They have a brother-in-law that can do construction, and they're looking at this house as their forever house, is what they told the realtor. And I think that's really kind of cool,
Well,
to see it go to somebody that's going to have build memories here just like we
and
did.
they're going to do the upgrades that we are not able to
Yeah.
afford to do right now to stay. And we
And
also want to get into a ranch and get away from the steps of the split level.
because my knees go out more than we do.
Um, but to hear, our realtors like, if someone's got to have that vision to come here and see, okay, a little bit of work, and then this house is going to be worth a whole lot more than they just bought it for. And their realtor saw that same vision.
Yeah.
And so I actually met them. They came here and they're talking about putting in brand new cabineting in the kitchen, which I'm like, oh, we're going to clean out the bathrooms. Cause I was asking about some cabinets we'd put in. Oh, you can take all that, and they even said they might redo the bathroom that we redid 14 years ago. We first redid it. And then 5 years ago, we did the shower and had it nice, beautiful ceramic tile shower and everything.
Take that with us.
And then I'm like, oh, that kind of got to my heart, like, because they're like, it must be weird having people in your house. I'm like, no, I know this house needs space, but that was the one thing that got me. Like, you're gonna rip out all that work we did with those pretty tiles, and
it really looks nice. It still looks nice. That's what's neat about it. The guy did such a great job that it hasn't gotten crudted or
So, but they have a young family. They have young kids, and they're going to come in and they're going to do cleanup work on it. Because we didn't first, I thought, oh, whoever's buying it's just going to flip it. And so it feels good knowing that someone else is looking to grow a place for their family. The area we live in isn't ideal for schools, and just the location is great. And so we're moving to the complete opposite side. We live on the far east side of the county. We're moving to a county west of us. So that Charlotte's huge. So that's a long distance. And so it's like, we're gonna have to get used to a whole new area of town and everything. And so it's like moving to a new city to some extent. So there's just so many different change going on. And with my depression, I've been really stuck in that I do the minimum. I get done what I need to do. I drive to work. It's an easy drive. I can do it in my sleep because I've been doing it so long that I'm realizing, wow, and I've been kind of like, you see me playing on my phone and kind of disappearing into my game. And that's not causing my depression. It's a sign of it, that I feel overwhelmed. I've known for years that there's areas that need cleaning up in the house. I've been very aware of it. I've had the intention, and I have gone through and cleaned things at times, yet I get overwhelmed by, wow, there's just so much to do. So now I'm stepping up into it, and it's just like, wow, there really is a lot here. And wow, I'll have moments when I'm like, Gina, if you had cleaned this up years ago, or if you had, and I'm like, okay, so you're shitting on yourself. This is where you're at. All the experiences you've been through have brought you to where you are right now. And I have to move forward. And at the same time, I need to stop and say, okay, so I'm feeling that. I'm feeling the heaviness of this burden, of the clutter that we have, the dust that's built up in some of these items. And we have to now decide what we're getting rid of, and feel that emotion, and not just say, oh, don't, it's okay, Gina, you did the best you could. Because if I just push it away and I don't sit in the motion for a minute, I'm not really moving on from it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I'm thinking right now, what's going through my head is the final episode of Friends, when they're all standing in Monica's apartment, looking at the empty apartment and saying goodbye, and thinking about the day that we have to do that.
You're making me cry now.
Well, I just, with the house before, we had a time frame where we saw it empty for a while, or we were able to go back and forth. We didn't it wasn't one day and we had to leave and say goodbye to it. And
because it was
because we were renting
you purchased it before we even met.
Yeah.
And then we got married and lived together in that house for got married in 94. We left there in 2001. But because we rented it, we went back and cleaned it up. And after the renters moved out, we went back and
so we
work on it.
It wasn't like it was one shot and gone kind of thing. And so I just think about it as I walk around and we're cleaning up, and I'm seeing the marks in the wall, and some holes that have been from the not so good times when things were thrown around, but all little memories of Oh, I remember when that happened. I remember, oh, that, and I noticed on the one between the living room and the kitchen on the post we have
Marked heights.
heights and dates, and so it's like, that talking about emotions, that there's so many wrapped in this spirit of this house that
Mhm.
it's going to be a little tough to say goodbye,
And yet there's a lot of some trauma trapped
Well,
in
yeah,
this
that
house too.
yeah.
That will be good to release. And I know that's what our youngest is looking forward to, the fresh start. Yet our middle child lived only in this house her whole life and lives away from home. And that's an adjustment for her. She's going through change. And do I come back home for a while and go back to school or do different things? And I just got, started thinking, wow, imagine being 21 and you're living on your own, but you're not sure what your future holds. You're not sure where you're going. You debate about moving home and now your family's moving,
Yeah.
and just the change of all that. And then our dog passed away just over the summer and all the memories in this house when Olive was here. And so there's kind of the pros and cons. There's the releasing the negative emotions to start fresh. And yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here talking to you and there's something hanging on the wall. And I remember that we put that hook up there to hold smocks for painting.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And
That's true.
and I used to do painting with the kids, and I raised them here. Harrison was 3.5 when we moved here. We decided to homeschool living here.
Well, think about when it would snow and we used to sled down the little, we have kind of a small hill, but and they would go sometimes across the road and stuff. And yeah, all
Sometimes
the
down the
snow.
driveway, because driveway would be
Yeah.
ice.
Yeah.
And
So, yeah, I guess, any house is going to have that. So, but yeah, that's
it's a
part of the
life
emotion that
it's a
we,
lifetime, 22 years. Well, it's not a lifetime, but
it was a short
it's
life.
well, it's like our daughter. She
Yeah.
was born the year after we moved in, and so now she's 21. And even our oldest, he doesn't remember the old house that much because he was 3.5 when he lived here. And so that's just a long time of,
Well, the youngest was born here,
yes,
literally
she was,
born here.
she was born at home, which she doesn't like us talking about, understandably, as a teenager. And it's kind of a weird, not a typical thing in
Yeah.
2023, people being born at home. And just the finality of having to pack all this up, and then the logistics of, like, we were talking to the mortgage guy the other day going over the final numbers, and he's talking about our homeowners insurance. It's like, oh shoot, that's something else we have to do. We have to contact our homeowners insurance.
Uh,
So we have and all the different pieces that are in place, all while clearing out clutter, getting packed up. We're going to pay for someone to load our stuff, but we're not paying for someone to pack it, and running a business, and me working part-time and helping our 14-year-old with her homeschool world and getting her involved in things, helping our 21-year-old. There's a lot of moving pieces in place as we're doing all this. And as we're going through all of this, emotions
yeah.
are coming through, and realizing how important it is to do tapping, the PQ reps that I learned, listening to Abraham Hicks, The Morning Rampage. I love that one. Maybe you can put a link to that. Getting my mindset clear, writing in my journal, things that when I start to get depressed, I stop doing. And I know I need to do them, but the less I do them, the further depressed I get. And yet once I start doing it, I see how much it really does help me. But having those things in place to work through all these different emotions that we're feeling, and helping our child to deal with what they're going through. And Don's done. I can tell when he
Well,
feels like it's time to wrap up.
well, I do believe at certain points, it gets more than people want to listen to, I guess. I don't know.
Typically, when we do our podcasts, we have more of an outline of what we're doing. Oh, the past few podcasts and the next several are these conversations that we're having because we're in the midst of things. We're trying to figure out how to do a podcast walking around and packing up.
Yeah,
The kind
multitasking
of
kind of.
sharing in the journey with us, because just sharing that process, right? It helps to hear other people going through things, and just the realness of what we're actually going through, not just talking about things esoterically or in theory. This is
Juggling, really,
this is our life, and this is our moving experience and our moving emotions. Glad you joined us here today. If you've liked this podcast, be sure to check out other podcasts. This was number what, Don?
78.
So we've done interviews with all different kinds of people on topics as varied as divorce and foster parenting and all kinds of things. We've interviewed a lot
Health.
of different people talking about health and food and nutrition. So check out all those other podcasts. Every Tuesday we do a short, and we keep it to 15 minutes or less. Tuesday tips, kind of focusing on one tip for parents. We kick it off with a fun joke. You can learn more at our website, Focused Healthy Family. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram, Gina, Focused Healthy Family. And we have blogs there, information about classes and workshops that we're going to do. We want to hear from you too. Tell us what you like, what you'd like to see more of. Give us feedback, any kind of feedback. And
remember, how you talk to your kids today shapes their future and yours.